Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the 4-game NFL slate for this weekend for the divisional round. On Draftkings and on Yahoo, they decided to do a 4-game slate, which I'm very excited for. Even though we have 2 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday, instead of doing two-game slates, kind of like they did last week, there was 3 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday. You saw them do 3-game slates last weekend. Luckily, this weekend, they're combining all 4 games into the main slate. Both DK and Yahoo are doing that, so should be a pretty fun 4-game slate. Should make for interesting, late swap decisions. Let's say you have some really good lineups going into after Saturday. You have some really good lineups going after Saturday. Maybe you kind of look through the leaderboards or whatever. See, opponents ahead of you, what they have. You can make swaps heading into Sunday's games. If you're playing cash games, if you're playing like head-to-heads, definitely going to be important to make swaps depending on how you do versus your opponents. I really like these 4-game slates. I love these playoff slates. Even though there's other sports going on right now, like Draftkings is still putting out huge tournaments. Pretty sure there's a millionaire maker for this 4-gamer. 3 million or 3.5 million in total prizes with $1 million to first. So we'll break this down position by position like we always do, guys. Just before we get started with the video, as always, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You will also get notified every time I do go live. I have been live streaming recently. I don't plan on streaming NFL this year. Obviously, the NFL season is kind of wrapping up. But next year, I think I will be doing NFL streams. I will still be doing streams for NBA. So, if you're ever able to tune in into my NBA streams, highly would suggest you do so. I'm able to answer all your questions. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to go live for NFL this year. I will try it out next year, though, see how some NFL streams go. But, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at Saturday and Sundays, this weekend's 4-game slate. We'll start off at quarterback. So at the top, obviously the top tier options you have here are great plays. Patrick Mahomes, 8K, Lamar Jackson, 7,600, Josh Allen, 7,400. I have no problems with any of these 3 guys. These 4-game slates, these pay-up options at the top, I don't have anything negative to say about them. It really just comes down to what value can you find to fit these guys in. We do actually have some solid value on this slate. We have some good cheap options at running back that I like that we will talk about. There's some receivers that you can take shots on as well. Tight end's a position you can kind of always pay down at. Same with defense. So you can fit in Mahomes for sure. I don't know how much, I don't know if you're going to be able to double stack him with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. That might be a little bit too much, but even though Mahomes is 8K and he's the most expensive quarterback on the slate, he's, a great option. This Cleveland KC game right now, it does have the highest total on the slate. It's actually been bet up 3 points, opened at 54.5, and since then it has been bet up to 57.5. We're expecting a lot of points scored here, obviously on the KC side with their 34 implied team total. Mahomes is a great play. I do prefer him over Lamar Jackson. If I can find the $400, I would definitely rather go to Mahomes. Same with Josh Allen. I like Allen as well, but if I'm paying up for any of these guys, Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, it's for sure going to be Mahomes for me between those 3. Now on Yahoo, I think it's a little bit different over there because Lamar Jackson, his price is actually way down on Yahoo compared to Mahomes and Allen. Mahomes is $42, Allen's $39, whereas Lamar Jackson is only $33. So I think on Yahoo, Lamar Jackson actually looks like the better option there at $33. But, again, if you're playing a lot of lineups, I would want to mix and match all 3 of these guys, stack them up all different ways with their receivers. Lamar Jackson, you don't really have to stack, but you could always stack him with Hollywood Brown or Mark Andrews. Really, I have nothing negative to say about any of these 3 guys. If I had to rank them, I would definitely rank them how they're priced. Mahomes number 1, Lamar number 2, Allen number 3, but on Yahoo, I would flip-flop Mahomes and Lamar because Lamar is so cheap over there. But then you got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. Both these guys I have some interest in as well. Aaron Rodgers, he's just been so good this year. Looks like possibly the front runner for MVP. If the Packers are able to potentially win the Super Bowl this year, I think Aaron Rodgers will be a big reason why. Obviously, he's played so well this season after, kind of a disappointing year last year. He's been good for fantasy as well, which, he really wasn't last season. He wasn't really a guy that I rostered much last year. But this season, Aaron Rodgers has been so good for fantasy. He's been, throwing for multiple touchdowns basically every game. We know he has the upside to go for, 300-plus yards and multiple TDs. I do like him at 6,900. I think given the savings, though, I would probably rather play Tom Brady. I actually really like Tom Brady, and I think he's my favorite quarterback overall in this slate when you do factor in price. I love his stacking options. You can stack him with Brady, or not Brady, but you can stack him with Godwin, with Evans, with Antonio Brown. All 3 of those guys are viable for me. Brady's just a guy that I always have interest in with how easy it is to stack him. We know where the ball is going when Brady drops back to throw. It's either going to Godwin, Evans, or Antonio Brown. One of those three guys the ball's going to. Like if Brady drops back to throw 40 times, you're probably going to see close to double-digit targets for all three of his main receivers. So I really like Tom Brady at 6,300. I like him a lot on Yahoo as well. He is very affordable over there, coming in at $28. I really just like this Tampa Bay New Orleans game as a whole. I mean, right now it has a 52 total, which is the second highest on the slate. I think this game could actually go over that total. I think we could definitely see a shootout here in New Orleans, in the Superdome. Games tend to always be high scoring there. I really like this game a lot. It's the last game on the slate, so I know I'm probably not going to have very high winnings going into Sunday, but I'm going to have a lot of guys in this Tampa Bay New Orleans game that hopefully can push me to the top. So I do like Brady a ton, and we're going to talk about his receivers that I think make for great stacking options as well. Brady's probably one of my favorite quarterbacks on the board. Just, this Tampa Bay team, they are so pass heavy. Brady's going to throw the ball 35 to 40 times basically every week. I mean, even if they're playing with a lead, which I don't know if that'll be the case here, like Brady's still going to be throwing a ton. I don't see Tampa Bay having too much success running the ball against this pretty good New Orleans defense that's always been good against the run. So I like Brady a lot at 6,300. His price actually came down off of what it was last week after he scored 26 DK points last week. Definitely like me some Tom Brady this week. So like him a lot at 6,300. Then you have like Drew Brees, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, cheap options that you could take a shot on. If I was going to play one of these cheap guys, I think it would definitely be Baker Mayfield for me. Just because, Cleveland's they're such big dogs here that you would expect they probably get behind in this game. They're probably going to be forced to throw. Baker Mayfield had a really good game last week against Pittsburgh. Was pretty efficient, 263 yards and 3 touchdowns on 21 completions, put up 22 Draftkings points. I do like Mayfield as a cheaper option, but he's more of like a GPP play, not someone that I would really be looking to in like my main lineup. I think for cash games, you either want to probably pay up for Mahomes, or I think dropping down to like Tom Brady makes a lot of sense as well. But really, that's it for quarterback. I think that really covers the position. So let's go ahead and move on to running back now. So at running back, this is definitely interesting at the top. We got Alvin Kamara as the most expensive option overall. He is $7,900. Tough matchup, though, against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just last year and this year, they've been really good against the run. This isn't a spot where I would expect Kamara to be too efficient on the ground. He has faced Tampa Bay twice this year. In week 1, 12 carries for 16 yards, so he was not efficient at all on the ground, but he was able to get there through the air with 5 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. He did have a rushing touchdown as well, so kind of got lucky with the touchdowns in week 1 when these teams played. And then they played again in week 9, 9 carries for 40 yards for Kamara and a rushing touchdown. Then he had 5 catches for 9 yards. So really, I mean, Tampa Bay has done a pretty good job of stopping Kamara this season. Obviously, this dude is, in my opinion, he's kind of matchup proof. Like, he's going to get double-digit DK points pretty much every week. Does he hit his ceiling, though? Does he put up a score to where you need to have him at 7,900? I don't think so, honestly. I think even these guys that are cheaper, like Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, I think these guys can outscore Kamara. So, honestly, I'm probably going to be underweight on Kamara. I don't expect to have a ton of ownership to him unless I can find a way to fit him in. But really, I'd rather save the salary and play these guys in the 6K range, play like Cam Akers once again, who I think is too cheap. We have some good value at running back that I like as well. So, I'm probably not going to be playing a ton of Kamara. I do like Aaron Jones at 6,800. I think on Yahoo, that's where Aaron Jones looks the best. He's only $29 over there. Definitely like him quite a bit on Yahoo. On Draftkings, I think I would rather save $200 and play Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, this dude's an absolute beast, man. It doesn't matter if Cleveland's ahead, if they're behind. Like, Nick Chubb's going to find a way to produce. Just been so good this year. We know when they get down to the goal line, most of the time it's going to be Nick Chubb punching it in from the goal line. The pass game usage is always a concern. If Cleveland does get behind, maybe you see a little bit more Kareem Hunt than you would expect, but still, they've been involving Chubb in the passing game recently. He got 4 targets last week against Pittsburgh. Week 16 against the Jets, he got 5 targets in that game. Kansas City's run defense is one that, has always been kind of suspect. They're definitely a team you can run on. I do like Nick Chubb quite a bit on DK. I prefer him over Aaron Jones, but on Yahoo, Chubb is really expensive. He's $36 over there, so I think I'd be more likely to take the savings and play Aaron Jones on Yahoo. But the guy I really want to talk about that stands out is Cam Akers. $5,700 on DK, $29 on Yahoo. Even though he's the same price as Aaron Jones, I honestly think I'd probably give the edge to Cam Akers, especially if he's going to be lower owned because he did get priced up. I still love Cam Akers once again this week. I was very high on him last week. had a monster game, 30 touches, 131 yards and a touchdown. Also got 2 catches for 45 yards. Like, it is clear right now that Cam Akers is the number 1 running back for the Rams. He's getting all the usage. He's getting the goal line work as well. Green Bay is a team that has always struggled against the run, especially this season. Like, they have been really bad against the run. Definitely a team you can run on. I really like Cam Akers here. I still think he's too cheap once again at $5,700. Like, he was way too cheap last week, and even though he got priced up $600 to 5.7K, like, he is still too cheap this week. He should be up there with Chubb and with, Aaron Jones. He should be like $6,500. We're still getting a big discount on Cam Akers, so I like him a ton. Once again on this slate, we know the Rams are a run-first team. In a game like this where they're pretty big dogs on the road, I mean, they're probably going to lose this game. They're probably going to be trailing, but, Cam Akers is still going to get his usage. They'll use him in the passing game as well. I like him once again at $5,700. But then talking about some of the value that we have at running back, so we got 2 cheap plays under 5K that I have interest in. Leonard Fournette at $4,900 and then Devin Singletary at $4,500. Even Kareem Hunt, I don't mind either at $4,800. We'll start off with Fournette though. So we've already gotten word that Ronald Jones, even though he is questionable and maybe can play this week, that Leonard Fournette is still going to start even if Ronald Jones plays. Fournette last week obviously got great usage. He was not expected to, really be involved a ton last week, but then we got word after the game had started that Ronald Jones got hurt during pregame warmups and that he basically didn't return for the rest of the game. He didn't even play a snap to begin with. We didn't know going into the game that Ronald Jones was questionable. Basically, the game started and Fournette was the guy on the field, and then everybody was kind of freaking out, like, where's Ronald Jones? Why isn't he on the field? And then a couple minutes later, we get word that Ronald Jones got hurt in pregame. So Fournette got monster usage last week with Ronald Jones out, got 23 touches, 93 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Also had 4 catches for 39 yards. Like, if Ronald Jones plays, maybe I'd be a little skeptical on Fournette, but still, the fact that they come out and said that he's going to start does make me confident that they're going to give him, a good amount of work once again. I don't know if he sees 23 touches again if Ronald Jones plays, but if Ronald Jones is out again, I think 18 to 20 touches is possible for Fournette. We know if they get down to the goal line, he'll be the guy punching it in. He gets usage in the passing game as well, so even if Tampa Bay gets down, like, they will still use Fournette quite a bit in the passing game. I know the matchup isn't great against New Orleans. They're a really good run defense. I don't think Fournette's going to be too efficient on the ground here, but the volume should be there. At $4,900, he is definitely a value play that I do have interest in on this slate. And then Devin Singletary, with Zach Moss done for the year, Devin Singletary looks like a top value, $4,500 on Draftkings. I like him a ton. I think on Yahoo, you could look to Singletary as well over there. He's $17. He's the same price as Fournette. I think both those guys look like solid values. For now, I'm probably just going to plug in Singletary, but it is definitely close between him and Fournette. I think both guys you could obviously look to, but I do really like Singletary as a cheap option here. So with Zach Moss on IR done for the season, I would expect a pretty heavy workload for Singletary. Even when Moss has missed some games during the regular season, I know Singletary didn't have monster usage. Like, they really haven't involved him nearly as much as they did last year. Like, with Zach Moss on the team this year, like, Moss is definitely taken away from Singletary. But now that Moss is out, I think we're likely going to see probably 8 to 10 carries for Singletary, maybe 5 to 6 targets. He's a guy that can get pretty good usage in the passing game. Against Baltimore, a pretty, good defense. It's not the best spot overall for Singletary, but I think just at $4,500, he is definitely too cheap this week for Zach Moss being out. He's going to be the number 1 guy. He should get basically all the goal line work. If they do run the ball at the goal line, I would expect that it goes to Singletary. Like, I don't even know who they have behind him besides TJ Yeldon. Like, they have TJ Yeldon, they have Tawan Jones, but I don't know if those guys are going to be too involved here, especially since it's the playoffs. Like, I just expect them to ride Singletary and just give him basically all the work he can handle. At $4,500, I think his usage might be a little bit more secure than Fournette, so that's why I'd give the slight edge to him over Fournette. It's probably a better game environment there in New Orleans, but I do like Singletary as a value at $4,500. Just know Zach Moss is pretty impactful. Makes me feel confident that Singletary will get the usage, so I like him as a cheap option. Obviously, Fournette you can look to as well. Even Kareem Hunt, I don't mind at $4,800. Like, if Cleveland does get down big in this game and they're having to throw, I mean, we know Kareem Hunt is a guy that will get a lot of usage in the passing game. He had a pretty good game last week. He got 2 goal line touchdowns, I believe, which obviously helped. But still, against KC in a revenge game, if you want to factor that in, Kareem Hunt at $4,800 could be like a tournament option you look to as a pivot off of Fournette and off of Singletary. I do expect Fournette and Singletary to be much more popular than Kareem Hunt, so if you want to make that pivot in tournaments, I could see doing that for sure. But I really think that's it for running back. So let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver. Wide receiver, basically at the top here, like I have nothing negative to say about Davante Adams. I have nothing negative to say about Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. Like all these guys are great plays. They're just so talented. I know it's a pretty bad matchup for Davante Adams being shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, but Davante Adams, in my opinion, is probably the most matchup-proof receiver in the league. Like he has just been so good this season. Even in tough matchups, he's been able to produce this year. On this slate, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play a ton of Adams at 8,600 when there's other guys I think I'd rather go to. Like I think the mid-range looks really good. A lot of these 6K guys look really appealing to me, even some guys in the 5K range. But like in lineups where I have Aaron Rodgers, obviously I will be looking to stack up Rodgers and Adams in tournaments if I can make it work. Tyreek Hill definitely gets a better matchup against Cleveland, just as much upside as well. I think straight up I'd probably rather play Tyreek Hill over Davante Adams, but really, both guys were good plays. They're such talented receivers that they're never going to be fades for me. If I'm playing 10 lineups, 5 lineups, I'm probably going to have at least one lineup with Adams and at least one lineup with Tyreek Hill. Whether that's with them just by themselves or if I'm stacking them with their quarterbacks. I mean, same could be said for Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs' matchup is probably the toughest of the three in terms of I guess, his floor might be a little bit lower than Adams and Tyreek Hill. Like, I could definitely see Stephon Diggs kind of having like a mediocre game here against Baltimore. It is a tough matchup, but, Diggs is another just very, very talented receiver that has a ton of upside. I mean, his target volume has been so secure this year. I think I'd rather get up to Hill and Adams if I can, but, Diggs is definitely in play. Honestly, though, he's kind of like the guy that I would probably single, kind of cut out of there between like Adams, Hill, Diggs, and we're about to talk about Michael Thomas, who I really like. Between those 4 guys, I think Diggs would be the one guy that I would probably have the least amount of exposure to. But Michael Thomas for a little bit cheaper, I like a lot here. 6,700 on Draftkings, I just think is too cheap this week for Michael Thomas, especially in a good matchup at home against Tampa Bay. His first game back from injury last week, in last week's wild card game, Michael Thomas looked like his old self. I mean, 5 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets. New Orleans really didn't have to throw a ton in that game just because, they were playing with the lead. Their defense was playing really well. Like I said earlier, I think this Tampa Bay-New Orleans game could definitely be a shootout. I think we could see a ton of points scored here. I think it could go over the 52 implied total. I like Michael Thomas a lot at 6,700. We know at home, this guy's just, a completely different animal when he's at home in New Orleans in the Superdome. Drew Brees as well just plays much better at home. I like, I don't mind stacking up those guys together. I'm not the biggest fan of Breeze this week, but Michael Thomas I definitely have a lot of interest in at 6,700. I'm going to be stacking up Brady with his receivers, so it does make sense to run it back with a guy like Michael Thomas. So I like him quite a bit at 6,700. I think with his price coming up, maybe he goes a bit overlooked on the slate. Maybe people try and pay up for Diggs or Hill. Not exactly sure, but regardless, I think Michael Thomas is a really good option, especially in lineups where you are stacking Brady with his receivers. You can look to run it back with Michael Thomas. But then you got the Tampa Bay guys, Mike Evans 6,400, Chris Godwin 6,100, Antonio Brown 5,400. So really these 3 guys I think are all viable. They all had pretty good games last week. Mike Evans got 10 targets, 6 catches for 119 yards. Chris Godwin got 12 targets, 5 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown. And then Antonio Brown, he didn't get a ton of volume, but he did find the end zone. 2 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown on 3 targets. He also had a 22-yard run. Really, all 3 of these guys look appealing to me. Like I said earlier, when Tom Brady drops back to throw, we know he's looking to AB, he's looking to Chris Godwin, he's looking to Mike Evans. Like, those are just going to be the guys that get all the volume from Brady. I think given the savings, Antonio Brown's probably my favorite of the 3. I like his price tag a lot at 5,400. Like, Antonio Brown has still been really, really good this year. Even though he's kind of been away from football for a while, like, he came back and he just, obviously he's not the elite receiver that he used to be when he was at Pittsburgh, when he was dropping, 20, 30 DraftKings points every week. But he has still been really, really good for fantasy. He's getting a ton of volume. This Tampa Bay offense, their pass game offense has been really good this year. Brady's looked like a much better QB. I like Antonio Brown a ton. I'm definitely going to be stacking him up with Tom Brady. I think AB is my favorite of the three Tampa Bay receivers, but really you can't go wrong with any of them. I just like the savings you get. Like on DraftKings, AB's 5,400. Like on Yahoo, he's down here at $22, whereas Godwin's 30, Evans is 27. I think I'd rather just take the savings, play Antonio Brown at $22. He is my preferred guy to go to between those 3 guys, but all 3 are in play. I could definitely see double stacking double stacking them with Tom Brady. So if you want to play Brady, Brown, Evans, or Brady, Brown Godwin or even Brady Evans Godwin. Like, all three of those guys are viable for me. I just think, given the savings, I'd rather play AB, who, has just as much upside, and at this point is still a guy that I want to have a lot of exposure to, even though he may not be quite the elite player that he used to be. Still a guy that does have a ton of talent. But yeah, other receivers like, Robert Woods, I don't mind at 5,900. Tougher matchup, though, against Green Bay. He'll probably see a lot of coverage from Jair Alexander. Jarvis Landry in a game where Cleveland should be playing from behind. I mean, Landry's been really good just basically like the last 5 or 6 weeks. When Odell went down, Landry didn't really do much at the start, but since then he's been, really, really good. Double-digit DraftKings points in like 6 straight games. I don't mind him at 5,600 either, but I think Cooper Kupp's probably my favorite guy out of all the 5K receivers. I like his price a lot at 5,300. He probably will be able to avoid Jair Alexander because Cooper Kupp mainly plays out of the slot, whereas Alexander I don't think really goes to the slot. I'm not 100% sure on that. But either way, Kupp, usually when the Rams receivers are closely priced, I normally always prefer Cooper Kupp between him and Woods, and especially now that there's kind of a little bit of a discount. Woods is 5,900, Kupp's 5,300. Definitely give me the savings and let me go with Cooper Kupp here. He's listed as questionable for this game, but I am going to assume that he plays, given it's the playoffs. I mean, these guys, they're going to play in the playoffs. They're going to toughen it out and play. I'm expecting Kupp to be probably full go here. Not really too worried about that injury unless we get word that maybe it's more serious than we think. But for now, I'm going to assume Kupp's full go at 5,300 in a game where the Rams may be trailing. I mean, Cooper Kupp does look like a pretty solid option in the 5K range. I do like him quite a bit on Yahoo. He's pretty affordable over there. Him and Woods are closely priced. There's only $1 difference between the two. Honestly, though, I think, especially for the ownership discount, like last week, Cooper Kupp was really low owned. He was way lower owned than I thought he would be. He was like 15-20% owned on the 3-game slate last week, which I thought was really low. I think on this 4-game slate, he'll probably be low owned once again. So I do like Cooper Kupp quite a bit on Yahoo, and I like him on Draftkings as well at 5,300. But in terms of value plays at receiver, if we're going cheap here, John Brown absolutely burned me last week. I had a ton of him on DraftKings. He completely busted. 4 targets, 0 catches, put up a big fat 0. Nobody's going to play John Brown this week because he busted last week and he had 0 points. So if in tournaments, if you want to get John Brown at very low ownership, could be someone worth targeting in tournaments. You could definitely look at stack him up with Josh Allen. That will for sure be a pretty low-owned quarterback receiver stack that you could do. I don't know if I can go to John Brown since he burned me so much last week, but still, he's viable at 4,600. Rashad Higgins, I don't mind either at 4,100. He did not have a great game last week, but he did get 7 targets, which is obviously what we want to see. He's basically been the number 2 receiver since Odell Beckham got injured. Landry's been the number 1. Higgins has been the number 2. In a game where Baker Mayfield will probably be forced to throw more than he normally would, I think Rashad Higgins at 4,100 is a fine cheap option that you can look to. And then Sammy Watkins, I believe, has already been ruled out. Yeah, he's already been ruled out for Sunday, so that definitely brings Mecole Hardman into play. Hardman, 3,900. Look, he's a guy that you never know what you're going to get from him. He could have 2 catches for 25 yards. He could have 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. He could definitely break off a long TD catch. We know this is a guy with a ton of speed. I think if you want to take a shot on him in tournaments as, a lower-owned guy with big play upside, Mecole Hardman definitely viable with Sammy Watkins out for this divisional round game. I do like him as a cheaper play at 3,900. Him, Rashad Higgins, those are probably the 2 guys I like most for cheap. Don't mind Gabe Davis either, but I think I'd probably give the edge to Higgins and Hardman over Davis. But that's really it for receiver. We can go ahead and move on to tight end and cover this position real quick before we do end the video. So honestly, tight end, it's kind of straightforward for me. I think if I'm paying up, obviously Travis Kelce looks like the best play on the slate at tight end if you can fit him in. The problem is he's 7,800, so you're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. Maybe instead of paying up for a stud receiver in one of your lineups, maybe you go with Kelce at tight end, or maybe instead of paying up at running back, you play 2 cheap running backs so that way you can fit in Kelce. I'm going to have exposure to Kelce for sure. If I'm only playing one lineup, I don't know if Kelce's the guy that I try and jam in on this slate, but he's a top play. It's a good matchup against Cleveland. Cleveland's always struggled against tight ends. I have nothing negative to say about Travis Kelce. It's just that he's expensive, so you're going to have to try and find a way to fit him in. But if I'm not paying up for Kelce at the top, then I think Austin Hooper as a value looks pretty good at 3,800. He's been a pretty heavy target monster these last few weeks. And like I said earlier, this is a game that Cleveland should be trailing in, should be forced to throw. when Baker Mayfield drops back, he's going to be looking to Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins. Those are going to be the three guys that get most of the volume from this Browns passing offense. And Hooper's been a big red zone target. He scored a touchdown in 3 of their last 4 games. He's got double-digit targets in 2 of their last 3. At only 3,800, I actually like him quite a bit as a value tight end. I think him and Travis Kelce are by far my favorite guys to go to at the tight end position. I don't mind Mark Andrews either at 5K. I would feel a lot better just getting up to Travis Kelce, but Andrews we know is always a guy that has upside. Definitely a guy they'll use in the red zone. Always a threat to get multiple touchdowns any game. Buffalo, another team that's been really bad against tight ends this year. So Kelce, Andrews, Hooper, those are the 3 guys I like most at the tight end position. And I think ranking them, I would probably go Kelce 1, Hooper 2, and then Andrews 3 when you do factor in price point. But yeah, that's really it for tight end. I guess you could take some shots on some of these guys down here, like Dawson Knox. Maybe hope he scores a touchdown. I mean, Gronk completely busted last week. He was another guy that put up a 0 last week, but in a high-scoring game against New Orleans, you could maybe go to Gronk at 3,600. Hope he catches a touchdown. But in terms of confidence, I'm most confident in Kelce, Hooper, and Andrews. Those are the 3 guys I like most. So yeah, that's really it for tight end, guys. I mean, defense, I don't really spend too much time on defense. I really wasn't even going to cover it. Defense for me is just, play whatever defense fits into your lineup. Even though it's a 4-game slate, I would not mind playing 1 or 2 guys against my defense. I just don't really care when it comes to defense, especially on these short slates. I'm not going to be paying up for defense most likely. Just really going to play whatever defense fits into my build. So yeah, I think we covered everything for the divisional round for this weekend. Should be some very fun games. It should be, some awesome playoff games. I always love when the playoffs come around for NFL because it's just by far the best thing to watch. I mean, usually always the games are so entertaining. They're close. They're down to the wire. Should be a pretty fun weekend of NFL football. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Best of luck this weekend. If you enjoyed, hit the like button down below, guys. As always, I do appreciate the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You will also get notified every time I do go live. But yeah, good luck this week, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you win some money. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.